Now, a big question that people ask, especially in Baltimore, is will Lamar Jackson ever win them a Super Bowl? Will we ever go all the way with one of the most talented quarterbacks the league has ever seen? And that seems like a very easy question. They've had multiple chances to do it, but something always falls apart at the worst possible time. Something just seems to be missing every single year, and a lot of people really can't quite point out what it is. When you think of the Ravens, you think regular season success, great offense and defense. Lamar dominates the regular season, and that is what Baltimore has always been known for, defense. And Lamar, in my opinion, was the best thing to happen for the Ravens since they became a franchise. And he was the best thing for John Harbaugh and his career in Baltimore too. So why? Why do they always come up short? Lamar's had 2 MVP seasons and basically changed the quarterback position as we know it. The postseason is their Achilles heel. It always has been. The second Lamar got there in 2018, when he took over midseason, went to the playoffs, every single year it's been disappointment. And I will say there are some years more than others it's disappointment because they had higher expectations. Like 2019, losing first round, it's like nobody really expected that. And that's kind of the vibe that the Ravens give off. They're going to, make a great push in the regular season. They look like, they could beat anybody. And then something happens. Sometimes they even start hot in the regular season and fall off. They had a 5-1 start in 2020 and they went 6-4 down the stretch. They went 8-3 at the start of 2021 and they missed the playoffs. I think they lost every single one of their games after starting 8-3. 7-3 start in 2022, and Lamar goes down and they finish 10-7. They lose in the wild card. 2023, Lamar wins MVP again, and the Ravens look like the best team in football. They have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And Lamar makes his first AFC Championship game appearance in his career. And then Kansas City comes into town, but it really doesn't look like they're the same Chiefs team. It's not the same offense. Kelsey looks like he's slowing down. There's no way that they could beat the Ravens this time. Actually, I should say there's no way that the Ravens can lose this time. But they run into you-know-who, Mahomes. It's always Mahomes. 2024, they had Derrick Henry. Lamar had arguably his best season. Doesn't win MVP. Ravens lose in the divisional round because Mark Andrews decided to drop the easiest pass he'll ever get. Now, here's the deal. The Ravens still have Derrick Henry. They just added DeAndre Hopkins, who has hit UNC status, but can still make plays. And as of now, they still have Mark Andrews. Hopefully he doesn't, dip his hands in butter. And they just signed Rashad Bateman to a big deal. And Rashad Bateman, underrated player, underrated receiver, one of the most underrated players in the league. I always loved him coming out of Minnesota. I think it took a while for him to get his footing, but he finally found his role. And his role is pretty much anything. They can put him anywhere. He can do anything. Line up anywhere. He's a great route runner. Underrated route runner too. Him and Jordan Addison, I think, probably the top 2 route runners in the NFL that don't get talked about a lot. Just watch him if you ever can. Watch a game. If you have all 22, watch that. He is a stud. And on top of that, Zay Flowers, who is a beast in the open field. He's going into his 3rd year and, looking to have his best season. He got better in 2024. The offense is loaded. And, I feel like Lamar has never really had that guy. He's had Hollywood Brown. Mark Andrews has been there. But the skill position has just always been a bit middle of the pack. It's never really been, and Lamar's never really needed, a top-tier receiver, or 2 top-tier receivers even at that. I mean, the scheme that they have, it just works in his favor so much because he's the best at what he does. So it's easier for him, a player like him, when you don't have someone or a receiving core who is as talented as, let's say, the Bengals, for example. Good offensive line pretty much his whole career. Defense, it's just always been, the Ravens have just never been a bad team. They never will be. They're just one of those teams that they're always going to be in the mix for it. And most recently, they just picked up Jair Alexander today. I'm recording this as they picked him up just a few hours ago. And he reunites with Lamar Jackson. They were teammates at Louisville. And now I said Denver had the best secondary in a few videos ago. And I love Denver. But now And I could even say before this pickup, by the picking up Jair, I think the Ravens easily have the best secondary in the entire NFL. Marlon Humphrey, Jair Alexander, Nate Wiggins, Chidobe Awuzie, Kyle Hamilton, and Malachi Starks, the rookie from Georgia. Awuzie has never made a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro, but he is that kind of, or at least he was, maybe not now, but he's still a great player. To have him as your fourth corner, I mean, that's a deep room. And Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks, easily the best safety duo in the entire league. They're going to dominate. The thing about the Ravens defense, especially now, they have guys that they can line up every which way, especially in the secondary, and especially at the safety position. You put Hamilton and Starks, you can put them deep, you can put them in the slot, rushing the passer, you can even put them at linebacker probably. I mean, they are going to do everything. I really can't wait to see what the Ravens have in store for them, because they're just they're two of those players that are just, they can do everything for your team if you really need them to. And I truly love how all in Harbaugh and company are. They're not playing it safe. They never really have been the kind of team to just, not make some kind of big move, but they've never really been this aggressive. And I think that's what you have to do. I mean, I think they know, you learn from your mistakes. Every year is new. You're always evolving as players and coaches. They looked at their past teams and said, you know what? We've always been good, but they are looking to be great, because especially now they know that they have a lot of good players for Lamar to throw to. They always had good players on defense up front. The linebackers, they're always going to be good for Baltimore. They've got a lot of veterans. But this year, I think the moves that they made, it shows that they are all in. And they know that they've come too close too many times to just let this just be another year of coming close but no cigar. CMC to the Niners is a good example of how going all in, making that splash move, that real splash move that's holy shit, a great team just got even better, and what it can do for your team. I mean, the 49ers, they were always good with Shanahan. But getting McCaffrey completely, I mean, just that offense, it's so much different. McCaffrey makes that offense so dynamic and just so almost perfect. And it's never going to be perfect, because you have injuries, you have situations, great game plans by other teams. But just in terms of how they were, especially in 2023, their skill position players, it was everything you can ask for. And Barkley to the Eagles, same deal. And they ended up winning it all, which is what the 49ers couldn't do. But another example of how one player, skill position player that you add, how it can just change your entire team. And for it to be a running back too. And even the Ravens, I mean, you look at Derrick Henry, it's kind of the same thing. I'll even say Brady to the Bucks. You bring in that guy that's okay, we were good on offense or defense, but we just brought in this guy, and it completely changes everything, because we know he is or was the missing piece. I don't know if, Jair can be that guy, or, Hopkins, Henry, maybe he can have another great year, but just in terms of the collection of players that they're bringing in, again, they just look like they are all in. I'm not going to lie, the Ravens are going to have a really hard schedule. They have the Bills, they have the Chiefs, Texans, Lions, Rams, Vikings, Packers. Those are all playoff teams. The Steelers twice a year, the Bengals twice a year. I think they're going to be really good. I mean, that's the difference, I think, this year. I don't think they're going to be dominant this regular season. I think it's going to be one of those years where they're going to have to find their way. They might win 12 games. Because they're just that good. It wouldn't shock me, but they don't need regular season dominance anyway this year. This is exactly what's holding them back. This is the answer, I think. That's out of their control. And it's not, Lamar doesn't throw the ball deep enough, or Lamar, doesn't capitalize in big moments, or the defense falls apart in big moments, or it's bad coaching. It's quite literally just because they falter as a team at the wrong time. They get momentum at the wrong time. I think they kind of just let themselves go, and it's a little vague. Is what I'm saying is a bit vague, but I think it's just out of their control. Some of the things that's happened to them, they ran into the Titans in 19, and the Titans were hot. They just had the perfect formula, I think, to beat a Ravens team like that. They kind of beat them at their own game. You know, kind of the same thing in 2020 where they went to the playoffs. They lost in the divisional they lost to the Bills, and they played not great. Like, they only put 30 points on the board, and it was really cold that game. And again, Lamar got hurt late in that game too. 2022, Lamar was injured. They didn't, they made the playoffs, but they didn't have him. And 2023, they run into the playoffs, the playoff version of the Chiefs. The Chiefs that are, they're always going to put up a fight. Mahomes was hot. He was coming off 2 playoff wins on the road. They're a good enough team where they're going to be in every single game if they aren't already blowing a team out, which is going to happen a lot. Well, maybe not a lot this year. If the Ravens go into the playoffs as a wild card, but they've won 4 or 5 of their last regular season games, and Henry's on a roll, the defense is starting to get takeaways, the secondary's coming into their own better than it's looked. They're scarier that way than if they go into the playoffs as 13-4, with a bye week. Because, for example, the 49ers, again, it happened to them in 2021 and 2022. Got hot at the right time. Defense started, playing better. Takeaways. Running game. In 2021, it was Debo kind of taking over the offense. Then in 22, it was McCaffrey. For the Ravens, I think it can kind of be a similar situation. Maybe Bateman becomes that guy. Maybe Derrick Henry gets rolling later in the year and nobody can stop him at, the best possible time. I just think it's going to be, if they have any chance, it's going to be with that happening. That's the only way I think Lamar Jackson will win multiple playoff games and maybe a Super Bowl. And I love Jackson. I've always said he can win a Super Bowl with the Ravens, and I think he will, but he needs help with the right kind of team and momentum. I think every year they get away from who they are in the postseason, whether it's the first round or the second round, whatever. I think on offense especially, they get away from who they are. In 2019, I think Lamar threw the ball like 50 times that game. He never did that in the regular season. They don't keep their identity when it matters most. And I want it to change this year. I want Lamar to win a Super Bowl so bad. I just want them to see if they can put up a fight in the championship game, score more than 10 points, go to a Super Bowl. They're too good. They are too good. Lamar is too good of a quarterback, and he's such a good leader, especially Harbaugh too. They're both like the perfect duo, quarterback coach duo. Lamar is just that guy in terms of leadership. He's that guy, all over the field, but they have the key pieces. They have it. It's like one of those things that I think you look at maybe like Elway, how it took him forever, how it took Stafford forever. It's one of those that I think that's the kind of situation we're looking at. It might take a while, but it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be this year. I don't know if it's going to be next year. It should, and I think will happen sooner rather than later.